hot and steamy New York City. The U.S. Open saw the top seeds under fire in Day 3 action as the drama continues here at the U.S. Open. She may be looking to complete the calendar year Grand Slam, but it's not always easy for Serena. Yesterday, she received a scare, but ended up getting through her match in straight sets. On the men's side, Novak Djokovic, the 2011 champion, hoping to add another U.S. Open title to his mantle, met slightly less resistance and booked a spot in the third round. Today, round 2 singles play is completed. We will move into the third round. In action will be the great Roger Federer, champion Andy Murray, Stan Wawrinka, Simona Halep, Caroline Wozniacki, and Petra Kvitova. This is Inside the Baseline, presented by IBM. And fans once again walking through the gates of the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center to hot conditions. Temperature today is supposed to reach the 90-degree mark and maybe exceed that, but we are supposed to get a break after today. And once again, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It is day 4 of the U.S. Open, so we will be heading into the third round officially after today's play. And let's take a look at some of the marquee matches on both sides of the draw. We will begin with the men. Andy Murray, former champion, against the Frenchman Mannarino. Stan Wawrinka, the French Open champ, will be playing as well. John Isner has a tough match today against Michael Jusny. Thomas Berdych will take on Jurgen Meltzer, who had to qualify into the draw this year. And Roger Federer tonight, under the lights, will face Belgian Steve Darcy. Again, that's all on the men's side of things. The women will complete their second round today as well. Serena Williams played yesterday. Today we have Victoria Azarenka, who's trying to return to her top form against Janina Wickmeyer. That's first up in Ash. Bondarenko could be a tough opponent for Simona Halep, who had an excellent summer. Muguruza, one of the young up-and-coming players who's made a splash this year, she's in action today. Petra Kvitova, many people saying she's the most likely challenger to Serena if she can get over her objection to New York City. And then later, Caroline Wozniacki will be in action tonight against Satkowska. And I welcome in Chanda Rubin. Chanda, welcome to Inside the Baseline, your first appearance this week, but I want to ask you about your thoughts leading into this fourth day of play. What's sticking out to you?
The biggest thing that I've noticed were the All-American matchups in the first 2 rounds of the tournament, particularly on the women's side. And then in the men's doubles, the Bryan brothers lost their first round match yesterday to the American team of Sam Querrey and Stevie Johnson. They, for the first time in about a decade, will not have a Grand Slam title in a calendar year. Yeah,
that's a big story. We've had a lot of upsets so far at the U.S. Open. Men's doubles not excluded, but yesterday in singles, we almost had an upset. It was a mini scare. Serena Williams was on the court against Kiki Bertens, who was a qualifier, and Kiki came out on fire. Serena was tight, and that produced an exciting opening set.
Well, Serena, she struggled to get into this first set tiebreaker, finally was able to break at 5-6, struggled throughout this set with her serve, particularly the second serve for Serena, but it was court movement like that and the intensity from Serena Williams that we've come to expect time and time again, and that got her through this tiebreaker. So often, tiebreakers are about who believes the most, and Serena, she understands what's at stake, and she's working through the nerves, trying to keep her emotions in check, but here, she let them spill over and really used them to her advantage.
Serena, she had 10 double faults in this match, Shannon, the most she's ever had in a major.
Well, that was a big problem today, and particularly on that ad side, but she found a way to get through, Serena.
Belinda Bencic, a player who beat Serena this summer, the youngster who is under the guidance of Martina Hingis and her mother, Melanie Molitor, she had a scare as well against Doi.
And Bencic, after this first set, which Doi took 7-5, Bencic was down match points in the second set, but managed to bring it to the tiebreaker, played a much cleaner, much more solid tiebreaker, and she's had a great summer, Bencic. She has the confidence. She beat a lot of top players, and that came to bear in this match. And on match point, the big serve from Bencic, great placement. She comes through in 3 tight sets.
Bencic also in Serena's section of the draw this year. Madison Keys, another young player who's making headlines as a possible contender here against Smitkova.
And Madison Keys hasn't done as well here in New York. She had the big breakthrough at an Australian Open, semifinals, the quarterfinals at Wimbledon. So she's looking to make some noise here, and she started off very solidly. She's been somewhat under the radar, but she started this match, wasn't as nervous. I liked how she finished it there, and she's looking very good, has the weapons to compete.
She hit her fastest serve of 123, fastest one she's ever hit at the U.S. Open yesterday. This is courtesy of IBM. Venus Williams has the all-time record at 129. And speaking of Venus, she played under the lights against Serena Falconi last night, and Venus had another tough match, back-to-back tough matches for her.
And, it looked like this was going to be a pretty routine win for Venus Williams after she took the first set 6-3, was playing aggressive tennis, as we saw in that point, moving forward when she needed to. But Falconi was a competitor. She fought tooth and nail, clawed her way back into that second set, took it in a tiebreaker. Venus served for that second set twice, by the way, couldn't close it out. But in the end, Venus, in true champion style, finished that match off 6-2 in the third.
I was really looking forward to this one. It did not disappoint. Talk about entertainment. These two of the more colorful players on the WTA Tour, Americans Bethany Mattek-Sands and Coco Vandeweghe.
And Coco Vandeweghe, she took out Sloane Stephens in the first round, and you thought this might be her moment, but Bethany Mattek-Sands took her out of her game. She was aggressive, mixing up play. Bethany Mattek-Sands is colorful out there, and she really showed it in her game as well.
Well, Bethany Mattek-Sands will meet Serena Williams on Friday night. I'm looking forward to that one. Let's transition over to the men's, Chanda, because Novak Djokovic has only won this title one time, but through his first two matches, he has looked very good.
And he is really my favorite right now in this event. The way he's played all summer, and he started here at the U.S. Open in the same fashion. He's moving so cleanly around the court. He's so elastic. He's picking the ball up early. And in this match, he wasn't really tested after the first set here. They stayed on serve throughout the set until Djokovic was able to break in the end. Took the first set 6-4 with shots like that one. And then it was pretty routine for Djokovic. He was seeing the ball early, looked very crisp off the ground, and the serve was working nicely as well.
Djokovic getting through this one comfortably, even had time to dance with a fan after the match. That's a good thing to check out on YouTube today.
And
he's always in a good mood.
You definitely see the personality from Djokovic, especially when he's playing tennis like this.
I don't think you'd see Andy Murray or Roger Federer dancing with a fan after the match.
I can't picture that one.
But Djokovic, yes. And Djokovic getting through that, as we mentioned, very comfortably. So comfortable we could talk about his dancing. So let's move on. David Ferrer, good to see him back, former semifinalist. He's been out with an elbow injury, but he looked good yesterday.
Hasn't had the matches Ferrer coming into the U.S. Open, but true Ferrer fashion, he started off strong, really wore his opponent down. 7-5, 7-5, and in that third set, it got a little bit tougher. But Ferrer, he looked good moving out there. It looked like he was seeing the ball nicely. And, he's comfortable on these hard courts. He's comfortable transitioning. But the return game, I think that kind of came to bear for Ferrer, and that should hold him in good stead as he moves through the tournament.
So Ferrer into the third round. He has not played much this year, so that is a very good win for him. Interesting channel, Rafael Nadal. Now I notice when people talk about Nadal's match, they're anxious, they're nervous for him. What are we going to see from Nadal?
Nadal has struggled really to get back to the form that saw him win all of his Grand Slam titles. He started great in his first round against Coric and then continued in this match. Still a little bit of a struggle in that first set, clinched it in the tiebreaker, and then as the match went on, Nadal got better and better. His movement looks like it's coming into his own. He's been taking a lot more backhands, as we saw there. Gets a little lucky on match point, but he's starting to move a little better. He's looking a little more confident as these matches go on.
Marin Cilic, our defending champion. Cilic 6'8" and moves like a much smaller man. He is the future of tennis, I think, Chanda. He had a very impressive match yesterday against Donskoy, who certainly put up a fight.
Well, Cilic, since winning the U.S. Open last year, he had some injuries, hadn't had quite the results he would have hoped, but here he looks like he's comfortable again. He's remembering what he did to win this title, and he's looking very good to possibly repeat here if he has a shot, if he gets through these early rounds.
This was one of the more dramatic moments of the day. Feliciano Lopez taking on Marty Fish, who's announced this would be his final U.S. Open. Marty actually got himself in position to win this match and couldn't come come through?
He played well, Marty Fish. He was aggressive. This was a very comfortable matchup for him. He actually has a winning record against Lopez. And you felt like, though, at 2-1, that Marty really needed to close it out in the fourth set, and it was tight all the way through, but he just couldn't quite get over the hump. And then in the fifth, it was really a question of the physicality of the match, and the body broke down a little bit, called the trainer. But for Fish, what a great way to go out on your own terms.
Yeah, it certainly was. So Marty Fish's U.S. Open career is over as he waves goodbye to the crowd. And now it's time for our IBM Game Changer segment. We turn it over now to Renee Stubbs.
Here with Elizabeth O'Brien again in the IBM Hub, where all the numbers are crunched. And Elizabeth, you guys like to look at reasons why, a lot of times, why players are winning literally and losing matches, and some of the interesting stats that you've pulled for us.
Yeah, well, we were looking at the last slam. We were looking at Wimbledon, and we looked at 4 of the top men and how far they were running at Wimbledon. And we noticed that Federer and Wawrinka ran less than Djokovic and Murray. And so we started to look at what was under those numbers, and we wanted to compare their styles of play. And one of the things we noticed was when we put Djokovic and Murray together, we looked at their stats, and they're really similar in terms of their second serve return points won, but their second serve points won is significantly different.
Yeah, well, I think that Murray gets into trouble sometimes with the second serve. I don't know whether it's because when he had the back problems and the back issues, he sort of changed his second serve, didn't quite get the same effect in the court as someone like Djokovic. And I think that Djokovic has improved so much his second serve. So therefore, I think he's not under as much pressure as Andy Murray is, particularly on the second serve, where guys really are aggressive. And when you play aggressive players like Wawrinka and Federer in particular, they're going to take advantage of the short serve.
Right. Well, so bringing up the 2 Swiss players, we looked at the differences there, and their service games won are very close. But when we look at the return games won, there's a big disparity between the 2 of them.
Well, the thing with Wawrinka is that he's kind of like risk-reward, right?
Yeah.
He goes for a lot on his game. He hits the ball very flat and very big, which is why he's such a threat at any time to any of these players. Of course, he's also a 2-time Grand Slam champion, because when he's on, he's so on. And he can literally blast players off the court. He's shown that this year against Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic in the finals of the French Open. But bottom line is that Rogers usually gets a lot of returns in the court. He puts players under a tremendous amount of pressure. And also, will we see him running into the net behind those crazy returns that he's done recently in the past to make the points shorter? So, look, all of it's about depth of second serve, how aggressive you are in returns, and making the return. And we all know that Roger makes a lot of returns.
Yep. Well, we'll be watching those and the distance run here through the draw.
Boys, get your running shoes on, because, or be a really good attacker, but make sure you hit the ball in. Back to you, Sam.
Okay, thanks, Renee. Chandler, let's talk about the men. Roger Federer, who they touched on a little bit, has adopted this new aggressive returning style. He's in Ash tonight and looking very good coming into the U.S. Open.
I love the way Roger Federer is playing. It's such an exciting brand of tennis. He's so clean from the ground, and now he's coming in, he's playing from the net, and he's surprising a lot of his opponents at times, and they have nowhere to go now. And I think it's also extended the longevity of Roger Federer. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses, potentially with an opportunity to win this event this year.
And again, he plays tonight. One of the other big 4 in action during the day session today, Andy Murray. He struggled at times against Nick Kyrgios, but there was a lot of things to deal with in that match. He faces Mannarino later today.
Well, that first round match for Andy Murray, I think he could breathe a sigh of relief, and he can kind of relax now. This is going to be a much more straightforward match than the first round, where Kyrgios had so much going on. He's got the big serve, and there's a lot that you have to adjust to. But against Mannarino, I think Andy Murray is definitely going to be a lot more comfortable. The return game is looking good, and also the serve is really coming on for Andy Murray.
Stan Wawrinka also plays today. I watched Stan's first match, and he seemed to just flip a switch when he was ready to win. He really didn't play all that well throughout the match, but good enough to get the win. As the competition gets better, I would think he's going to have to be a little more locked in.
Well, that can happen when you're a 2-time Grand Slam champion. You have that innate confidence, and sometimes you can kind of be at a little bit below your top gear, and you have the ability to turn it on. And Wawrinka, he's so strong around the court, and that backhand is such a beautiful shot that he doesn't have to overplay in a lot of these matches, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays on the hard courts here on the heels of winning the French Open.
John Isner also playing today. He's had a couple of weeks off, had an easy first-round match, but he's got a tough matchup today against Michael Jusny.
He does, and Jusny is a great competitor. They've had some battles in the past, Isner and Jusny, and I think Jusny can return, can try to take Isner out of his service games a little bit. So Isner will definitely have to serve well, will have to move well, and I would look for Isner to maybe be a little bit more aggressive when he can in this match.
You know, one player nobody's talking about, Chanda, is Tomas Berdych. He's playing today, but we're not really hearing much about him.
Not at all, and I liked how he looked in his first round. He was moving well. He, again, is one of those athletic guys, one of the best players, in my opinion, that has not won a Grand Slam. Will this be his year to rise up at the U.S. Open? This has been tough for him playing in New York with the conditions, but he's certainly looking very good in these first couple of rounds.
You mentioned, will this be his year? Will it be Jack Sock's year at the U.S. Open? He takes on Ruben Bimmelmans later today, a Belgian.
And Jack Sock, I've been impressed with the way he's progressed, the way he's grown. He's matured so much as a player. He's understanding more and more how to play in those big moments, so he has a great shot to move through.
Let's go ahead and transition over to the women. Simona Halep, who had an excellent summer, she's facing Bondarenko later today.
I don't think Halep will have too many problems. Bondarenko was out of the game for a while with some injuries and now has had a little bit of a resurgence. But Halep, she's been so solid. She looks so confident out there. Hasn't quite had the results here in New York. So I think this is a year for her to really, prove that she can play on these hard courts. She did well in the summer swing, lost in the finals to Serena in Cincinnati. So I think she's feeling good, and that's a big component for Halep.
One player who always seems to feel good and loves New York is Caroline Wozniacki. She's playing today too, actually tonight.
She is, and she loves the center court. Lost to Serena last year. You think if it wasn't for Serena, could Wozniacki have won her first Grand Slam? She's still searching for that maiden title, but she's looking quick around the court. I certainly don't see her having too many problems tonight, but she always battles. Sometimes she has to move a little bit more and sometimes has to raise the level of her game because she's an aggressive counterpuncher. But I love the way she's using her serve a lot more in these matches.
If you took away all the fanfare, all the fans, all the cameras, and just sent Serena Williams and Petra Kvitova out on a public court somewhere, I think Kvitova is probably the best matchup to beat Serena. But she doesn't always like New York, and we'll see how she fares later today as well.
I think that's absolutely true. And Kvitova, she has the big game, and you wonder, why she hasn't done as well here in New York. It's a little hotter, a little more humid. That hasn't favored her. But she's looking good. She won New Haven, tough final against Safarova coming through in that one. I think she has the confidence. Didn't play quite as well in her first round here, but got through it. And I think she's going to slowly build. The question is, can she manage, the nerves and everything that New York presents, and can she manage the conditions?
Well, these fans are getting to see Garbine Muguruza really for the first time on the center stage at this year's U.S. Open. What are your thoughts of her? She plays today as well.
I love her game. I think, she's an exciting player. She has the shot-making ability. She moves well around the court. This will be a tough match, though, for her against Konta, who she lost to on grass before getting to the finals of Wimbledon. She won't be taking this match for granted, but she has a great shot and is a great player for the future.
And finally, Chanda, before we let you out of here, Victoria Azarenka is about to get started in Arthur Ashe Stadium against Janina Wickmeyer. Your thoughts on her?
I really hope for Azarenka that she can continue to build. She, at one point, was the only player to challenge Serena Williams consistently throughout the year, and she's a former Grand Slam champion in her own right. I think this may be a year for her to build back up and really make some noise here in New York. She's completely under the radar and definitely have to like her chances in this match today.
Okay, Chanda, good job. Those are some good insights, way better than Jimmy Arias. So,
Well, thank you. I will tell him you said so.
I said that because he's not here. So thanks, Chanda. I want to thank Chanda Rubin for joining us on Inside the Baseline, and we want you to join us every day as well. You can participate with this program via social media by using the hashtag InsideBaseline with your tweets and Instagram posts. Please do that. We'd love to hear from you. So for Chanda Rubin and all of us here at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, I'm Sam Gore saying enjoy Day 4 at the U.S. Open.